Welcome back to my channel for a lens review which I promised over the last weeks. And today I'm finally there. I have shot this lens long enough on my Leica SL3 reporter, and I want to report back to the channel community how I like this lens. I'm talking about a standard zoom, let's call it an always on lens. Focal length is 24 to 105 millimeter. It's made by Panasonic and it's called the Lumix-S 24 to 105. So you see the S here. And this lens has a constant aperture of f4.0, and by the way, is also called a macro lens in the specifications. So the game plan for this video is simple. I want to introduce the lens to you. I will share with you my shooting experience. I want to go through all the specifications, and then I will show you lots of sample images so we can all together decide whether we like the image quality coming from this lens shot on a Leica SL3. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, support my work. For you it's for free, but for me it really means a lot because it helps me to increase the reach of my channel. Many thanks for that. Alright, so why was I keen reviewing this lens and why did it take so long to actually come finally to recording this video? Well, I think first of all, we all talk from time to time about the L-mount alliance, but a lot of us refuse to actually shoot other brands' lenses, which are members of the L-mount alliance, on Leica cameras. A lot of us believe that only a Leica lens is a good lens. And if you are in this camp, drop me a comment. If you strongly disagree, drop me a comment too, because I'm curious to see your opinions and to hear what you think about that. Second, this is a highly affordable lens. So Panasonic, of course, like Sigma, is member of the L-mount alliance, and they are priced significantly cheaper than Leica lenses. Let's do a little bit of price discussion first. So this lens is priced, and I'm going to round all numbers, at B&H in New York for give or take $1,300 US. The standard zoom from Leica, I'm talking about the 28 to 70 millimeter lens, which is a lens where you find lots of sample images on my channel. Constant aperture is an f2.8, is priced at $1,900. So we have already a price differential between the Lumix-S lens and the cheapest standard zoom from Leica of $600 US. The next more expensive lens, which is a standard zoom, is the 24 to 70 millimeter f2.8 Vario Elmarit, which is priced at B&H at $3,200 US. So a significant difference to what we have here and how the 28 to 70 millimeter Vario Elmarit is priced. And then if we go to the king of zoom lenses on the Leica SL3, and I love this lens and I've shown it many times and many images shot with it on my channel, is the Vario Elmarit 24 to 90. It's a more bulky lens, a more heavy lens, but it always delivers absolutely terrific image quality. But the price tag for this lens is $6,300 US. So we have a bunch of choices here, and this is by far the most affordable lens. And let's assume for a moment that in the last weeks I came to the conclusion that the image quality coming from this camera lens combination is really good. Why would you want to spend so much money just to have Leica engraved on the lens? And don't get me wrong, I'm Leica's probably most loyal fan and supporter. But if you have to watch your budget, this might be an absolutely splendid alternative to the much higher priced native Leica lenses. So in the last weeks, this was by far the most used lens on my Leica SL3 reporter. I really wanted to take time to review this lens before I come back to you guys on the channel community and report back my findings. I wanted to do justice to the lens and I wanted to avoid to jump to conclusions. But you already saw sample footage shot with that camera lens combination on the channel. For instance, when in the course of my tutorial on firmware 4.0.0 for the Leica SL3, I made a follow-up video on the new pixel shift multi-shot drive mode, where all sample images were shot with that lens. And by the way, these were longer exposures, taken at the blue hour, taken at nighttime. And I will, of course, post the link down below in the info box in case you have not seen these images. The images I want to show you today are shot at daylight, and they were shot in the beautiful city of Lucerne in Switzerland. And this was kind of the last shooting I wanted to do before I come back and tell you what I think about this lens here. Let's have a quick look at the elements on the lens. So first of all, we have here a zoom ring, and the lens tube comes out when you zoom. And the range in terms of focal length is 24 wide angle up to 105. And already here you see this is clearly superior to everything we have in the native lens world from Leica, because the maximum on a standard zoom you get in the Leica world is the Vario Elmarit 24 to 90 millimeter. But here you can go beyond in the tele area up to 105 millimeter. We have here a lock switch, so currently I can freely zoom that lens. And by the way, this is a very solid zoom mechanism here. And the lens tube, even if you shake here, is so firm, but nevertheless very smooth in the way you can zoom here. It will not just sink in by itself based on camera shakes or movements. This is done very well. I've had zoom lenses in the past from other brands where if you point your lens upwards and you shake the camera, the tube is just sinking into the lens body again. And I hate that. I really hate it. And this lens is so solid, it works really good. If you dial in 70 millimeter here, no matter what you do with the camera body, it will stay at 70 millimeter focal length. Now you can lock this zoom ring here by this lock switch. And now it's locked. So you will stay now in the 24 millimeter wide angle focal length. And in particular for transporting the lens on the camera, this is a very useful feature. If you are at a different focal length like 50, you cannot lock it. It's blocked. You only can lock it in the extreme wide angle setting here of 24 millimeter. Then it works. And now it's locked. And that is the first mechanical element besides the zoom ring here, which we have on that lens body here. Then we have a switch between autofocus and manual focus. And that is, of course, the usual functionality here. And we have optical image stabilization in the lens, which we can switch on and off. And by the way, the lens harmonizes very well with the in-body image stabilization of the Leica SL3. And then we have here, of course, a focus ring. And that focus ring is absolutely silent, has sufficient resistance, so you do not accidentally dial in some focus which you don't want to have. And it is very, very smooth. So the build quality of this lens, and by the way, it's fully weather resistant, splash and dust resistant, is absolutely fabulous. It is a really valuable lens for a really competitive price tag of $1,300 US. The autofocus system in the lens harmonizes very well with the now massively improved autofocus system of the Leica SL3. It's super snappy, super quick, super fast. Have a look, focusing at Jennifer, background, Jennifer, background, Jennifer, background. Just to have some fun, I dialed in now autofocus continuous, human body face detection, and I also dialed in here tracking. Have a look. I go now here to 50 millimeter, and let's see what happens if I half press the shutter button. Jennifer's face is immediately recognized and it is very sticky. Look at that. So tracking with this lens works quite well. I had no issues when shooting people. And it's all recognized and works in the same way as if you would shoot with a native Leica standard zoom lens. The aperture on this lens is constant f4, and I'm currently here on f4. You see this here in the top display. You also see it here down below at the bottom of the information screen. And let's go to 105 millimeter focal length and let me focus on Jennifer. And you see, I get the eyes, I can toggle the eyes if I want. And there is a very pleasant background blurriness going on here if you shoot at a focal length of 105 millimeter at an aperture of f4.0. Let's take that shot. Here we go. Let's crop in and you see this is very sharp, nice colors, nicely rendered, and is really crisp. So this looks good. If you go aside, you see how blurry this is. And I think you can very nicely with that lens, in particular in the tailor setting, separate the foreground from the background. It's ideal for portraits, for people photography, product photography, what have you. You have here such huge optionality if you have a focal length starting at the very wide angle of 24 millimeter and then going all the way into tailor up to 105 millimeter. This is really a lot of flexibility you get in your shooting, and I will show you this later in sample images and will also show you images shot at 24, 35, 50, 70, 85 and 105 millimeter, of course. Let me quickly provide the specifications of the lens so you have a complete picture. It's a complex lens. We talk about 16 lens elements in 13 groups. 2 are aspherical ED lenses, 2 are aspherical lenses, and the optical quality of this lens construction is really not reflected in a price tag of $1,300 US. We have 9 aperture plates and the widest open aperture is an f4.0, as I said. The minimum focusing distance is only 0.3 meters, so 30 centimeter. And it is actually not a distinction going on between the minimum focusing distance in the tailor setting when you are shooting at 105 millimeter or when you shoot at 24 millimeter. It seems to be always 30 centimeter or 0.3 meter. The maximum magnification is 0.5 times. Let's have a quick look here. Let's get this into the tailor setting and let's see if we can still focus on Jennifer. And yes, we can. Here we are too close. Here we get her. And look how the magnification is working. This is really cool. Let's crop in here by a double tap. Come on. And you see, this looks really good. So you can go very close to your subject and you have only 30 centimeter of minimum focusing distance and the magnification is 50%. So that's quite cool. In the wide angle setting on the focal length here, if we talk about 24 millimeter, we have an angle of view in the diagonal perspective of 84 degrees. And if we are in the extreme tailor setting, 105 millimeter focal length, the angle of view is 23 degrees. The lens is fully dust and splash water sealed. I mentioned that. Let me quickly show you the rubber sealing here. So here you see it, black rubber. And also when you focus, zoom, when you operate the lens, it's all dust and splash water resistant. And you can operate this lens between -10 degrees Celsius up to 40 degrees Celsius. And I'm sure the camera lens combination will not give up if you even shoot in Egypt, for instance, and it gets 45 degrees. The filter size is 77 millimeter. And that's basically all in terms of specifications of the lens. Now I want to show you sample images, and believe me, all those weeks when I tested this lens, I was actually pretty excited about the image quality. And I will come back to this discussion after we look together into the sample images, but this is a highly capable lens. So let's have a look, and let me remind you again, if you're interested in long exposures, multi-shot exposures, night shots, blue hour shots, don't miss my video about the pixel shift multi-shot mode of the Leica SL3. The link is down below in the info box. So if you have a look here, lots of sample images from the beautiful city of Lucerne, some close-ups later, because we have this macro classification with 0.5 times magnification. And as I said, over the last weeks, I did shoot this lens intensely. This was my last shooting where I finally wanted to round up my experience. I also mentioned if you want to see that lens on the Leica SL3 shot at night, you know, blue hour, then have a look into my Leica SL3 pixel shift multi-shot mode video. And here I want to pick now a few. Maybe I just walk very quickly through all of them. I don't know. Let's see how this all progresses. But this lens is fantastic. Really, I mean it, you know. And you know me that I'm not saying this without reasons. And I think in terms of, you know, straight lines, I don't see any distortions. This is shot at 24 millimeter. And the lens always delivers crisp, clear, sharp images, a lot of contrast and micro contrast, and it looks really good. This is an interesting one. And this was actually hanging on a wall. And I found this a very funny image. That guy sitting here in a fridge and is about the theater in Lucerne. Here, one of the big churches, and again, if you look here, nothing but goodness. This is really good what this lens is delivering all over the place. Lucerne is such a beautiful city, very famous wooden bridge here. We come to that later in the images a bit closer. What I wanted to show here is how much range you have in terms of focal length. So this is a 24 millimeter perspective. This is a 35 millimeter perspective. This is a 50 millimeter perspective. This is a 70 millimeter picture. This is an 85 millimeter focal length. And here we have 105 millimeter. And now, of course, we have all the different focal lengths in between these points here. So 24, 35, and so on. And it's actually delivering really good image quality no matter at which focal length you are shooting. So 35 here, let's go somewhere else in the frame. It looks all really good. Let's go here to 50 millimeter and let's go to 70 millimeter. Look at the bridge here, people walking over a first bridge and then the wooden bridge comes behind. Here 85 millimeter. Let's have a look here at the bird here. And again, people in the scene. And 105 millimeter. Let's look at the tower here. And this all looks pretty good. Of course, you can further improve the images by more massive post-processing. I was doing this a bit lightweight here because I wanted to show the images as quickly as possible. And this is all looking really good. A nice perspective, 24 millimeter, perfect landscape and wide angle perspective here. And here a bridge, you know, here we go now to the other side of the city. Bridges, rivers, the lake, you know, the old part of town here. I think this is a nice perspective here. I was cropping in here into a 16:9 aspect ratio to have less water in the foreground. Here, you know, I was just walking the city. This is a very nice picture. I like this very much. And this is shot at 39 millimeter. So sitting in between the markers I mentioned before when I showed you the different field of view for the different focal lengths. This is sitting in between at 39 millimeter. It's a precise statement here in the metadata. 1/125 seconds at f8.0, typical aperture I would say for cityscapes, landscape, what have you. And is a really nice image. Look at that here. Very sharp, very crisp. Very nice contrast, micro contrast. The colors come across in a very nice way. Let's go to the other side. Let's look here at the boundaries. Looks good. Here's some motion blurriness by a person walking into the frame. But all in, really good. Corner to corner, sharp, nice contrast, nice micro contrast. Look here. This looks really, really good in my opinion. Here a slightly different perspective. Here we have the bridge. Here, this is another wooden bridge, by the way. Very old bridges here in Lucerne. And here I was looking for a different image composition. And again, I think a nice image. Let's continue here. This is the church you saw from the front side before. Have a look here. And I would say for documentation, reportage, landscape, cityscape, but also people photography, you saw how nicely Jennifer was separated in the foreground from the background and how soft and blurry the background bokeh was. This is a universal delivering lens. It's really cool what I get here. Different pictures, someone walking here in the scene, very well rendered. And here the water. If you look at that, looks really good. This is 1/160 seconds at f8.0, ISO 100. Look here. So much to discover. Is a focal length, again, sitting in between the focal length markers, 52 millimeter here. That's what the metadata is saying. And all in, very, very well delivered by this lens. Of course, we have a really good sensor in the Leica SL3, and that contributes, of course, to the image quality. But I think the lens is the first entry point before you get an image. And this lens is a very nice entry point for what you are doing here. Let's continue. Here you see a perspective where you can really walk along that bridge to the other side of the river, which then ends in the lake. And let's go here. I think I was doing a multi-shot somewhere, handheld, by the way. Let me try to find it. Let's crop in for a moment again so you see what's going on here. Look, this is the old post building here. Post office. This is the very famous Bucherer building in Lucerne. Bucherer is a worldwide company. They sell jewelry and watches. They are also official distributor for Rolex watches. And this is actually the building where kind of it all started, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a historic building. It's a very nice building. And if you crop in here, look here, the different brands, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Tudor, Rolex, you know, in a very nice building and pretty well rendered by the lens. Look at that. Look here, the Rolex crown. I think this is all very nice. Of course, I had to crop in here and had to correct some lines in the perspective. That's why the resolution is not the full resolution, but it is a nice picture. And then I wanted to shoot with backlight. You see the sun here. And also here, the lens performed. You know, I needed a bit of post-processing to recover information out of shadows because the sun was directly shining into the lens, but it is a good image. Look here. Look at these images here. They are all backlight situations. Here you can walk along the bridge again, end up at that tower. Let me continue. This is the multi-shot image I was doing, handheld. And this is huge in resolution. If you look here, 18.73K times 12.465K. And let's have a look. And you see, this is very well done by the camera lens combination. Look at the tower here. Of course, you get much more details if you use the multi-shot mode here. The mountains in the background, nicely rendered. Look here, looks good. And I think there is really not a single point of criticism I have when it comes to that lens. And let me remind you, it's a lens for a price tag of $1,300 US. With all the flexibility it brings to you in terms of focal length between 24 millimeter and 105 millimeter. Look at that. This is the church again, which you saw on the front side in an earlier image. Looks good. Looks really good. I'm happy with that. And then I wanted to do some close-up shots. And as I said, the magnification is 0.5 times. This is a Leica 3C. It's an interesting camera. And I show you why. Because at the backside of the camera, there is this metal plate, and engraved are all family members of the legendary Leitz family who had this camera in their possession and were shooting it. And this camera is now my property. It belongs to me. And that's why I wanted to do some close-up shots here. And I think this looks good. Look here, the focus was sitting here somewhere, I think. Here, the focus was very likely sitting here on the front side, here, for instance. And I think also as a close-up lens, this is a highly usable lens. You can apply it for product photography, for macro photography, if you allow 0.5 times to qualify for macro already. Otherwise, it's a close-up shooting situation. But it looks really good. Look at that. Nicely rendered, very sharp, very crisp. So close-up shooting, also no problem with that lens. You can shoot this for all different situations you might stumble into as a photographer. Look here. This is very crisp, very sharp, and nicely replicates this structure of this Leica 3C, which belonged many years back to the Leitz family. I will stop here with sample images and quickly conclude the video. All right, that's it. that's all I wanted to say and show. For me, the Lumix-S 24 to 105 millimeter is a winner and a keeper. I will keep it because if I need maximum flexibility for a standard zoom, no other standard zoom carries me more into the tele area than this one, namely up to 105 millimeter. And it is still super wide at 24 millimeter. Remember what I said, we have 84 degrees as a diagonal angle of view at 24 millimeter. So this lens is a perfect all-rounder. I would like to call it an always-on lens because you can use it for architecture, landscape, the night sky, the Milky Way, people photography, documentation, reportage, product photography based on the maximum magnification of 50% or 0.5 times. It is an all-rounder and the image quality is astonishingly good. I think it is actually really good, and drop me a comment what you think about the image quality you saw in the various images I showed. So I can fully recommend this lens, and the price tag is highly competitive at $1,300 US. And I think this is one of the use cases for the L-mount Alliance. You know, it is just not Leica policy to produce lenses which are affordable for everyone on planet Earth. This is just a matter of fact. But in the Sigma world, in the Panasonic world, you get significantly cheaper lenses which are as capable as some of the Leica lenses. And this one here, I think, has not to be shy, has not to hide behind a wall if we compare it with a 28 to 70 Vario Elmarit or a 24 to 70 Vario Elmarit, both with a constant aperture of f2.8. It will not replace my 24 to 90 millimeter Vario Elmarit because this lens for me really is not only from a legacy perspective because I had it with me in so many locations, but also from an image quality perspective, the evergreen, always best Leica zoom lens for Leica SL cameras. But here is a really good alternative, and this lens has my full recommendation. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel, there's always more to come. Thanks for watching, stay safe and healthy, and of course, peace out.